start with your future, but also distinctly some of the words that the former chief, now former chief, wrote in her resignation letter. You saw this letter, I'm sure, way in advance. You saw this a week ago. Do you
No,
agree
I didn't. By the way,
didn't?
No.
Okay. When were you able to look at the letter itself?
Recently. So I did not see it a week ago.
What are your overall takeaways? Do you agree with her statements in large in that letter?
You have to. Her statements in what part? It was a 2-page letter.
As it relates specifically to the culture within the department and specifically ethical apathy really stood out to me.
Well, what I'll say is one, thanks to the chief for her service here. It's an extremely difficult job, which obviously I knew it was a difficult job, and I'm finding out even more every day how difficult it is indeed. So thanks to her for her service here for the last several years. Number 2, she's entitled to her own opinion about the way things are. I love this agency. I care about this agency. That said, doesn't mean that I ignore the faults of this agency. Just like any other organization, any other group of people, we have our issues that we have to work on, and we have to face them. Ignoring them, covering them up, turning a blind eye to them doesn't accomplish anything. It also doesn't accomplish anything to say, to throw our hands up and say, you know what, we do a lot of great things. We shouldn't worry about those things on the periphery. Whereas I'm a believer that we should always be looking to improve. Whether it's the things we already do well, we can do those better, or the places where we have need for improvement, we need to absolutely focus on working on those things.
Ethical apathy is a strong statement, and you mentioned opinion. Do you believe that's her opinion, or do you believe that's factual, that there is apathy within the department?
I think that's her opinion, and she's entitled to it. I think the men and women here are very, very ethically driven. We want to do the right thing, and I'm part of that. You know, I'm part of this organization and this agency, and understand the push for progress that's been here for a long time. That every man and woman out here on the street wants to do their job really, really well. I mean, answer me this. Have you ever met someone who just wanted to do a bad job? No, that doesn't exist generally. And so people are, they're hungry for leadership in a way that says, hey, you can be better than you are without it being an insult to who you are today.
So this department she describes, or at least some of the officers, she very much says there are a lot of officers who are engaged, enthusiastic about what they're doing, why they're doing it for the community. But is this an accurate representation of the department you've worked in and you've worked for the last 18 years?
That there are a lot of people who are doing this job for the right things, absolutely an accurate representation of this agency. Do we have gaps that we need to fill? Do we have people that we need to push? 100%. Those are going to always exist, and it's our job as leadership to make sure that we push those people in a positive direction.
She specifically put some of the responsibility on certain members of leadership. I mean, we know that we have certain members of leadership named in these lawsuits on administrative leave. We have a couple who are retiring, who I know, who I'm sure you know very, very well. When she names the leadership specifically, I mean, how do you take that?
It's always leadership. It should be us that has the responsibility and takes the fault for when things go wrong. That's what leadership is about. It's about seeing the ways in which you need to improve, and then holding people accountable to that standard. My job is to make officers understand what is expected of them, and then give them the tools to do it. And if they don't have those tools to do it and they don't perform at the high level, that's on me. That's on me. And that's what leadership's about. So it's always about leadership, regardless of what the problem is. People perform at a high level because you've given them the tools, the skills, and the capability to do it. And oftentimes failure is some combination of leadership and chance.
But you could argue there's a difference between taking the fault and being at fault in some degree, correct?
No, I'm responsible.
What will be done specifically to change this, especially because she seemingly couldn't overcome this? Why you today?
I don't compare myself to her. I think she did a lot of great things. Having an outside perspective is really good. It's been refreshing to get some outside perspective at times. But what I will say is that, I'll actually be the first chief from inside the organization directly. Every chief we've had has either been from the outside or gone away and returned. So to be part of this organization right now, and being part of the people here right now, I think it uniquely positions me to connect with them in ways that may have been difficult in the past. Times change. It's okay that we're still in a position where we need to progress. We will never be in a position where anybody says we're perfect. And so I am of the opinion that the moment that we think we got this right is the time that we start to fail for real. And so we are going to continue to try to look for the next best way to do things.
You mentioned people who were on the outside and then eventually did come back in. Your sister, the former interim chief, Yvette Gentry, falls in that category, right? She had retired, and then the mayor at the time asked if she would come in, and she did the job, but she made it very clear, this is not something that I want full time. Right. What makes your situation different, if it is? From a perspective of, and let me rephrase that, she didn't want the job full time. Do you see that being something you're interested in?
I mean, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, whether or not I'm the permanent chief. Like the mayor said, he's not conducting a search right now. Right now, we have work that needs to be done. Violent crime is the problem right now. We have obviously some of the internal things that are going on that are the problem right now. We need to focus on that, get those things stabilized, and then we can get to decisions about what's going to happen permanently when that time comes.
You talked about how gang violence has really changed. It's been altered in recent years. The number of gangs that seemingly young adults, kids, can even be involved with at one time. You spoke about it in Frankfurt. Can you reiterate just how difficult it is uniquely to handle gang violence than comparatively to years past?
I wouldn't say it's uniquely difficult. If you look back at years past when the gang culture first arose, probably more so when I was a little kid, but the problems of gangs in the past changed because we figured it out, right? So we did a good job of making sure that we were putting people in jail and making it fiscally not beneficial for people to remain in gangs the way that they were. So they changed their model, so that's what we're doing. We're going to adjust to their changes, and we're going to solve this problem too. So this is constant, right? As crime changes, we have to come up with new strategies and tactics to approach that. And as we solve those problems, new ones will emerge. And so we will constantly be in a position of evolving our tactics and strategies to combat what's going on out there on the street.
We always talk about how, and the Deputy Chief Healy, who will be retiring here soon, has talked about this. The only difference between a non-fatal and a fatal sometimes are what you have at your disposal, whether it be a tourniquet or getting people to the healthcare workers at the right time. How do you guys view the numbers right now?
Well, you're asking two separate questions.
I'm not asking you to give the numbers.
No.
How do you view this progress?
So you're talking about, one, our response and treatment of gunshot victims and that narrow gap between a fatal shooting and a non-fatal shooting. And what I'll say is that what you see out here in officers' responses to shootings, whether fatal or not, is absolutely amazing. If you would transport an officer from 10, 15, 20 years ago in any agency across the country and put them where we are now and how we respond to shootings and traumatic injuries and the treatment that is given to the public, they would be shocked. Even medical professionals would be shocked that we're doing some of the things that we're doing on the street to save people's lives. I remember our first tourniquet application, it was 15 years ago or so, our first tourniquet application in the field, and the doctors in the emergency room took it off because they thought we were crazy. And now it's routine. And the number of lives that have been saved because of that, because of all these men and women out here who are dedicated to keeping people safe and keeping people alive, is we can't even put a number on it. That being said, that number is way too high of the ones that we haven't been able to save or prevent. It is absolutely unconscionable to think that we have over 150 homicides each of the last 4 years. This absolutely has marked a culture change in the nature of violence in Louisville, and we have to, as a community, get that back under control. A big role in that is the police, but an even bigger role is how we respond to this as a community. This has to be a collective effort. Community safety isn't something that we can give you. It isn't something we can put on you. It is something that we have to do collaboratively with you. And so as we develop our crime strategies and start to roll those out in the next couple of weeks, a couple of months, you will see that there's going to be a heavy emphasis on how we interact and use community resources to combat this violent crime issue.
When we were in Frankfurt, you had just got done talking to lawmakers, and we had, you guys took a little time to answer some of our questions after, which we were of course grateful for. And you told me specifically, this is your department and you're going to be dedicated to the officers here. Those were your words. Is this a long-time role or long-term role in your mind, leading the department specifically through the coming years under the DOJ's watch? Is that your intention?
Here's the thing about the DOJ coming in, is the DOJ is here to give us guidance and oversight. We within LMPD, we within Metro government, we within this community run this police department. And we have to run this police department in a way that benefits the officers and the people that live here in Louisville. We are going to welcome the guidance of whatever is in a consent decree and make sure that we can execute that in a way that is sustainable, in a way that is achievable, in order to keep people safe. But do not be confused. The DOJ will not run the Louisville Metro Police Department. We will.
But you specifically have been a part of those negotiations. You have rare insight that others at the helm would not have. Yes. Is that reason why you should be at the front when the DOJ is in some part overseeing this city? I'm going to be here for years to come. I can't even retire yet. So regardless of what role I'm in, I'm going to be here to make sure that we do the things the best way we can. But does that make sense for you with your knowledge at the table? It's only you and one other person who's at the table at this point, correct, with the DOJ?
No.
That's rare knowledge?
No, there's a team of us.
From a police?
There's a team of us from the police side. And we're depending on some of the subject matter experts within the department. It would be naive to think that I could walk into a room with the Department of Justice and negotiate a consent decree on my own.
But
right?
you might be able to tell other officers things that maybe others wouldn't.
Right.
And
so the way that we've handled those things is that officers who are subject matter experts in certain areas, we're relying on them to give us feedback and give us pointers and say, how does this work in your shop? How can we make this functional so that you can do your job well? And so we're taking that back as part of negotiations. So yes, I do have an insight into the substance, but it's ultimately the substance that everyone is going to get, right? That final document is going to be a public document. It's going to be highly scrutinized. I'm sure it's going to be highly criticized, but that's fine, right? It should be a public document. It's a public agreement of how we are going to handle it.
Do you worry that some of the things that have come to light in recent weeks, some of the controversy, will make it harder to negotiate with the DOJ as far as getting the version you want in that document?
No. I mean, if negotiations are going to go forward the way they're going to go forward, what is the right way and the best way to do things is the right way and the best way to do things regardless of what's happened in the last few weeks. I am not a fan of making knee-jerk reactions to things. I like to make sure that we have well thought out, well planned decisions, and then we execute those. And when those come up short, we make alterations to plans, and that's okay to say that we need to change the path that we're on.
The mayor is about 1.5 years into his administration. You have said to me before that it doesn't necessarily matter who even the police chief or the mayor is. I mean, people will move forward, the department moves forward, but the mayor does appoint the police chief. If a new mayor comes in, they will appoint a police chief, whether that be the current or a new one. Do you get a sense that his political future essentially kind of rides on your performance at this point?
What I get is that this city rides on the police department, right?
On your shoulders, right now.
Like I said before, I'm responsible for this police department. We as leadership are responsible for what happens with this police department. One of the things you heard me say in Frankfurt was that I look at Louisville as being the cultural and economic engine for the entire state, which is a great responsibility. But public safety and community safety is at the core of having this city that is so vital to the entire Commonwealth thrive. And so we have to get this right. We don't have a choice but to get this right. And so regardless of all of the politics and everything, does it affect people who the mayor is and who the police chief is? Absolutely. Does it change the mission of what the police are here to do? Not at all. Our mission is to keep people safe and protect constitutional rights, and we'll do everything that we can to do those two things, regardless of who's in charge. And I think officers can buy into that.
My last question to kind of close this, and you've been asked this before. To those who believe that LMPD is a lost cause as it's currently formed, who believe the systemic issues are too large, that there is nothing that can be done to get this back to a respectable model, what do you say to those people?
Watch this.
Watch what?
We'll prove that we earn your respect. We'll earn your respect. I don't expect for everyone to agree with the things that we do all the time. I don't expect everyone to agree with the decisions that I make. I'm not asking you to. What I'm asking is for an honest dialogue so that we can understand the issues that we face and we can make improvements. Taking an intransigent stance about improvement can never happen, I don't believe in lost causes, right? This department is filled with amazing people who work their tails off every single day, and we are constantly going to be looking for the next best way to do things. And I think we are uniquely situated. Crisis brings opportunity, and we've had our fair share of crises in the last few years. And with that, we've had to be very introspective and say, who are we? Are we doing things the right way? And what's the next best way to do things? And that's what we're looking for. Officers want to be proud of the work that they do. They are proud of the work they do. They want to be proud of their agency. And so that's what I plan to help them do is understand how they can be, the work that they do is reflected in the community every day. They do a lot of great work. They deserve to be recognized for it. That doesn't mean that we don't make mistakes. It doesn't mean that we've never been wrong, but we're going to do right now. That wasn't even from Plato. That was from Lil Wayne, by the way.
In case we were wondering. Yeah. I meant to touch on this real quick if you have a second. It kind of goes back to the letter, but it's bigger than that. The former chief had said that the media had portrayed, and she put this in quotes, that we were portraying her as being too hard on her commanders. I'm sure she was referring to the recording, which I listened to in full. You were on the recording. When you heard some of the things she was saying before we got into what we've all focused on or what the media is focused on, what was said beforehand, her being too hard on commanders, that question, you talk about changing things up. Do you believe that was being too hard on commanders, or do we need more of that, you meet the standard here, or there's the door?
One, you're entitled to your opinion too. So whatever you think about the previous chief, you're welcome to think that about that. Two, I'm not going to talk about what happened in that room because obviously it's under investigation. But three, the important thing is understanding standards. When standards are clear and people are held to them, there is no disagreement. There might be frustration, but we can maintain respect and disagree with each other at the end of the day when we understand that we're trying to accomplish the same thing, right? What I can't take is somebody who is not going to put in the effort to try to achieve the standard. If I'm not giving you as leadership, if I'm not giving you something you need to perform at the high standard that you know that you're capable of, that's on me. That's on me to make sure that I'm reaching out to you and I understand what you're going through and what you need in order to perform at that high level. And if you're not, then we have to make changes. But ultimately, people want to perform at a high standard, and it's our job as leadership to make sure that we give them the tools and the resources to do that.
Anything else you'd like to add?
No, and I've said this a couple of times at different times. You know, the last few weeks have been a bit of a whirlwind, but one of the things that has happened is everybody has come up and shown so much support they're showing it to me personally, but I know they mean it for the officers. Like I said, this city is it's a special place, and it's critical that we get this right. And the community wants us to get this right. And so in spite of some of the issues that we might have, I think everyone in this community can appreciate that we need this department to excel. And they want that. Now, I wish the officers could feel the amount of love and support that is out there for them.